We welcome you back to this channel. Today we will explore 3 paranormal tales during work hours that challenge our understanding of the supernatural, where sometimes we encounter more than just work tasks. Go ahead, turn off the lights, and let's take one more step into the world of the unknown. In the first story, we will learn about the experience of a pizza delivery driver who ventured into an abandoned mansion only to encounter a terrifying figure in the darkness.
Midnight delivery.
Some time ago, I was desperate to find a job. So when I saw a job post on Facebook for a pizza delivery guy at a nearby restaurant, I jumped at the opportunity. They gave me the job without asking anything. They didn't even check my ID. That was strange, but I didn't pay attention to such small details. The job started out fine. I worked the evening shift, delivering pizzas across town from 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. But one night, something strange happened that changed everything. I got an order at 1 a.m. for the furthest area of town. The address seemed odd, and Google Maps couldn't find the building. When I asked my manager about it, he said they were a premium customer, so I had to go, even though the area was outside our domain. The delivery took me into the forest, to a huge old house that looked like a palace, more like a Victorian-style mansion. It was 40 minutes away from the city site. There was no electricity, and it was pitch dark except for a single light in a window on the second floor. Feeling uneasy, I knocked on the door, but no one answered. I knocked louder, and this time the door creaked open, but there was no one there. I was a little scared at this point, as nothing was normal about this delivery order from the very start. I turned on my mobile's torch to look around. The house looked like an 80s architecture, with antique furniture all around. There were many rooms around, and in the very center was a wide staircase to the above floor from where I saw a light before. I decided to take the stairs. As I reached the top, I saw a woman standing at the end of the long corridor, right in front of the room from where the light had been coming from. She was wearing a long white gown and had a candle in her hand. Most of her face was covered with her long back hair, making it difficult to see her face. I was getting mixed feelings at seeing her, as I wanted to just deliver the pizza and run away, but at the same time did not want to go any further. I approached her cautiously. Her face was mostly hidden by her long hair, but the candlelight in front of her revealed her red lips, forming a strange smile. A feeling of unease washed over me, and in my nervousness, my phone slipped from my hand and fell to the ground. I bent down to pick it up, but I froze in place. The light from my phone illuminated her feet, revealing something horrifying. They were twisted backward at a 180-degree angle. My heart seemed to stop beating as I slowly lifted my head to meet her gaze. Her expression had changed, now appearing serious and angry. Suddenly, she began screaming. Instinctively, I knew I had to run. I threw the pizza to the ground, grabbed my phone, and started running towards the way I came in. I could hear her growling behind me as I sprinted, my heart pounding in my chest. When I glanced back, I saw her crawling on the walls like some kind of wild animal, closing in on me. The doors and windows began slamming shut on their own as I raced downstairs, my legs trembling with fear. Just as I reached the exit, the door slammed shut in my face. Without hesitation, I smashed a nearby glass window and leaped out of the house. I started the motorcycle with labored breathing and sped off without looking back. I went straight to the police station and told them what had happened, but when they accompanied me, the house was in a different state. All the windows and doors were boarded up with wood, as if it had been abandoned for a long time. Even outside, there were bars closed with rusty chains and locks, indicating that no one had entered there for many years. But it was strange, as broken glass from the window I smashed to escape was still on the ground. The police claimed that the house had been in that condition for a long time. The pizzeria owner also denied having sent me to such a place. I never went back to that pizzeria. I can't explain what happened. I can only imagine that the owner had something to do with it and tried to make me the next meal for that monster or whatever it was. But fortunately, I managed to escape. I wonder if, before me, He had sent someone else as a sacrifice to that house.
In the second story, we will delve into the world of a haunted theater, where an art director faces inexplicable phenomena, from mysteriously breaking windows to the appearance of a figure that defies all logic.
At the theater.
I still can't bring myself to go to any theater after what happened to me. I used to work in a theater as an art director, overseeing the themes of the stage sets, among other things. When I first joined, everything seemed normal. However, the people there were kind of off, or so I thought at first. They would always talk about ghost stories within the theater, and I tried my best to ignore these rumors and not pay attention to such things, because I never believed in them. One day, while I was sitting in one of the seats, looking at the stage and making sketches for an upcoming play, one of the workers approached me. He asked if I was okay and if I felt something strange. As he asked, his face had a scared expression, and he kept looking around nervously. I reassured him that I was fine and hadn't felt anything unusual. It was a strange moment for me, because I had just met him, and his questions were odd. I didn't press him for more information to avoid further conversation, and he eventually left. However, about 10 minutes later, he returned. The employee approached me again and asked if I was okay. This time, I decided to ask him why he was repeating the same question. I thought he might be some kind of weird person trying to annoy me. It turns out he had seen something strange on the security camera. A human-shaped, luminous figure in the seat next to mine. He wanted to check if it was still there, but when we looked, there was nothing. He was just curious if I had felt anything unusual too, or if it was just him. It was a very awkward moment, to say the least. At first I felt nervous, but then I began to suspect that he was making things up, perhaps trying to prank me, so I just left the room. After a few days, while I was in a meeting room with two of my colleagues, something even weirder happened. The meeting room had 3 glass windows facing the hallway. I was sitting next to the first window when suddenly, out of nowhere, the window cracked with a heavy sound, as if it had received a blow. I stepped back, and that's when a shadow passed by the hallway, definitely not a human. Then I looked at the second window, and it passed by that as well. As I turned to the third window, it suddenly burst, scattering glass pieces on the floor. We were all really scared, and we ran out of that room without another thought. This incident truly changed my perspective, and I started to feel that the stories people were talking about might hold some truth, rather than being mere tales. Another day, I was preparing the set in the theater hall as usual, but then all of a sudden, the seats started opening and closing with a cracking noise, and the doors started to open and close, slamming. I ran out of that room in a panic. I was all alone and kept running until I met one of my colleagues. She asked me what happened, and I told her everything. She agreed to come along to the theater and help me out. Together, we returned to the room to resume work, and everything seemed back to normal. As we started working, we saw a tall, well-dressed, elegant guy with clear blue eyes, smooth skin, and black hair. I asked my colleague if he was one of the workers, but she denied it. I was about to approach him when I noticed that he was just floating in the air, emitting a dim light. At that moment, my heart really stopped working. I was paralyzed. That guy looked at me and gave me a smile. At that moment, I somehow forced my senses to come back and just ran away, taking my colleague with me. After this incident, I didn't want to come back to the theater, but I had to because I didn't have any other job options at that time. So I forced myself. I kept on seeing shadows in the hallways, and sometimes things moving on their own. Everything was quite bearable. But then, as I was going downstairs from the box to the first floor, something pushed me from behind, and I fell down the stairs. I broke my arm and had to go to the hospital. At that moment, I decided to stop working at the theater, no matter what I sacrificed, and I never went back. But one thing I still do not understand. Why did that entity decide to hurt no one else but me?
Finally, we will explore the harrowing tale of a night worker in a hotel, where childish laughter gives way to a supernatural presence that paralyzes her in the darkness of the night, confronting her with a ghostly girl. The Hotel Girl.
The more you ignore them, the less they disturb us. I work late night shifts in a hotel, and because of that, I sleep in one of the allotted rooms in the hotel. Everything was just perfect, until one night while I was sleeping, I heard a knock on the door followed by running footsteps and children's laughter. I opened the door and looked around, but there was no one in the whole hallway. I stood there for a while looking around, but then I went back to bed and slept. The next night, the same thing happened. My sleep was disturbed by children's laughter. The next day, I asked my other friend about the children who play in the hallway. Confused, my friend told me there are no children in the hotel at that time. I was kind of scared and couldn't understand what was happening. A few days later, while I was sleeping, I woke up suddenly to the sound of footsteps approaching me. When I tried to move, I was unable to. It was as if I had no control over my body. My whole body had become paralyzed. I wasn't even able to move my hands, talk, or scream, but I constantly heard the sound of someone approaching me. There was a mirror on the front side of my bed. I looked into that mirror, and I saw a very ugly-looking girl with curly hair, burned skin, and long nails approaching me. My heart almost stopped beating. I tried so hard to scream, but my body was not in my control. I could only move my eyes. I was constantly looking at the mirror. Then I felt someone pulling my bedsheet backward and getting in with me from behind. When I looked up, I saw no one, but when I looked in the mirror, I could clearly see her. She moved downwards onto me, hugging me and resting her head on my back. I could feel her presence and touch. After that, everything stopped. I was able to move again. Whatever happened to me was very strange. I stayed awake for the rest of the night. The next morning, I asked the staff to change my room, but it wasn't possible because it was high season and the hotel was full. I knew they would never do such a big favor for a worker like me, and I had no other option. That night, while I was in the bathroom getting ready to sleep, I heard noises in my room again. I opened the door and saw the girl with the burnt skin and curly hair walking around in my room. Then I looked down, and it sent chills down my spine when I noticed that the girl had no feet and was floating in the air like a real ghost. I was so scared. I remained in the bathroom, looking at her, but then she disappeared when she came closer to the bed. When I looked into the mirror, I could still see her reflection. Without turning to look at me, the girl got into my bed. When I looked, I could see the shape of the sheets with a body inside, but there was no actual entity that I could see with my eyes. Then suddenly, it disappeared, and the sheet fell flat on the mattress. For the rest of the night, I was too scared to sleep on the bed, so I spent the whole night sleeping on the floor. The next day, the cleaning girl called me and showed me a bow she had found inside the room. She asked if it was mine. When I looked at it, I realized it definitely wasn't mine, as it was a hair bow for a girl. On closer inspection, I noticed it was slightly burnt. I knew it belonged to the girl I had seen. After that, I kept on hearing children's laughter that would suddenly change into screams. I was unable to sleep at nights, neither focus on my work. I had no idea what to do. I told one of my friends about what was happening, and she suggested I contact someone for help. She gave me the numbers of some paranormal investigators. I called them, and they came to my room and performed a ritual with the Bible. They also gave me a thread to wear. After that, everything calmed down, and I didn't see that girl again. Maybe she was gone, but after this incident, I started to see those kinds of things more often. I could feel their presence and see them. At first, I was afraid of them, and they could sense my fear, often following me. But now I know how to deal with them more calmly, without letting them know that I notice them.
Thank you for journeying with us through the dark passages of these stories. If you enjoyed them, give us a like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss more tales of terror. Visit our channel to discover more incredible stories and let the fear continue. Remember, in the shadows, there are always more secrets to unveil. Until next time, where fear will once again be your companion.